This is it. This is what I was looking for. I think I may have found a new favorite. Other than that, Kermit is perfect. Hello and welcome to the Faded Wildflower Crochet. My name is Rachel, and today is a good old classic episode of Will It On, which is a series on my channel where we test out different types of yarn and see if they work for amigurumi. It has been a while since I have said that, but I have had this yarn right here, which is Feels Like a Dream by Lion Brand, on my shelf since July. And you are seeing this in November. So I have waited long enough to try this out, so we're gonna go right into it. Okay, so here is a closer look at this, which the packaging has seen better days, but like I said, this has been on my shelf for quite some time, and I did have to tape it to keep the label on there. But this yarn is, like I said, Feels Like a Dream by Lion Brand. It is a size 5 bulky, although it's one of those yarns where it's definitely thinner, but because of all of the fluff, they classify it as a larger size. This does come with 207 yards, and it is a 100% nylon yarn. And I have to say, just feeling this in the skein, it definitely feels like a dream. It is so soft. But we are going to see if this is a dream to work with. So I've gone back and forth on what to make with this yarn because in some lightings it looks green and in other lightings it looks blue, which it is called sea green. So I guess it's kind of going for that in between blue and green look. But I don't remember, again, this has been so long since I purchased this that I don't remember what project I had in mind when I bought it. But I think what we're going to go with is an animal that's going to look good in either blue or green, which is a frog. And I will leave the pattern for this down below. But without further ado, we're going to get to the crocheting. Okay, you guys, first impressions time. I did finish both of the little feet and it is almost time to connect them. I am really enjoying this so far. So far, it both feels like a dream and is a dream to work with, so that is good. I did go down to a 4mm crochet hook. Hello, Lily. You can only see her tail right now, but Lily says hi. So I did go down to a 4mm crochet hook, and that is working really well. I don't feel any gaps in my work. Now, when it comes to a fluffy yarn like this, usually the outside feels and looks nicer than the inside, or the wrong side feels better than the right side. And if you don't know what that means, if you are new to amigurumi or working in a spiral, the phrase goes that the noodle being your beginning tail, goes in the bowl. So this is the right side, whereas if the noodle is sticking out like that, that's the wrong side. But when it comes to a fluffy yarn or a faux fur yarn, the outside sometimes is better. So a lot of times what I will do is work it normally and then flip it inside out. With this one, let me show you. So this is the outside, the wrong side. And then this is the right side. So it really is not that much of a difference. So I think for the purposes of this plushie, I'm just going to work it as normal and not flip it inside out. Just with the way this one is structured, it will probably just be easier that way anyway. But I am impressed with that because, like I said, sometimes it is kind of frustrating because depending on the pattern that you're working on, like with this one, I'm connecting the feet and then going all the way up into the head. So it's a little bit trickier to flip inside out than plushies where you're just making the individual pieces. So I'm actually kind of glad that I don't have to do that because it really does look good both ways. I will say it feels just a little bit fluffier and a little bit softer on the outside. So that is an option always, but for this one, I'm just going to keep it the right way. Really not much more to say other than that. It's going really well and it feels nice. It's easy to work with. Now, of course, you can't really see your stitches with a fluffy yarn like this. And again, if you've never watched a video of mine where I'm working with a fluffy yarn, my recommendation is always to really feel for those stitches. And of course, stitch markers can be helpful. I don't use stitch markers very often, which people have asked me about before. And it's not like I have anything against them, but when I'm working a pattern that I'm already familiar with, I just prefer not to use them. They just kind of get in my way a little bit. And honestly, the truth is, I just flub my stitches sometimes, especially something like this where it doesn't really matter if the stitch count is not exact. This is why I struggle with patterns where the stitch count has to be exact. It's because stitch markers just bother me. They get in my way. I don't know. Anyway, I think for the rest of this, or at least for a little while, I'm going to go work Outside and enjoy the nice fall day outside. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll check in with you guys in a little bit. Okay, you guys, I am back inside. I don't really want to be because it feels so nice out there, but I am at the point where I need to stuff this, and I forgot to bring my stuffing outside. I know that it doesn't look like fall outside right now here, but it does feel really nice. It was 57 degrees while I was out there a minute ago, but the problem is here, it never really looks like fall until like December, and by then it's Christmas time, so it's kind of weird. Anyway, so this is how far I've gotten, and guys, I think I may have found a new favorite fluffy yarn. This is just so easy to work with. I feel like this is everything that I wanted Feels Like Bliss to be, and I think I gave that one a pretty good review whenever I tried that a few months back. But if you watch that one, you will know that my biggest problem with it is that it was heavier than I thought it was going to be. It was what's the word for it? It had separate strands that were wound together, whereas this one is just one strand with the fluff coming off of it. So it gives it a much lighter feeling. And I think that's what I was looking for with Feels Like Bliss. This is it. This is what I was looking for. I really like this. I'm having no problems getting my tension right. I'm just having no problems whatsoever, which I feel like when I just breeze through a plushie, it can be kind of a boring video because I just don't have much to say other than I just really like this. But let's actually check and see what this looks like flipped inside out now that we've gotten a little further along. So this is the wrong side there. It is quite fluffy on the wrong side, as you can see. And then we'll put it back to the right side, which looks like that, which you can just tell a little bit more, and there is dog hair on there. You can tell a little bit more that you can see the rows. And so it really just depends on your preference, what you want your plushie to look like. So I am just going to leave this on the right side, but I do think that that wrong side looks pretty fluffy. I really do like that. For some reason, while I'm working on this, I keep thinking that this is the texture of what a Muppet looks like it would have the texture of, which I've never felt a Muppet before, but I am a Muppet stan. I feel like I've brought up the Muppets more than one time on this channel. I have seen all of the movies, and I used to love Muppet Babies as a kid, and my kids love the reboot of Muppet Babies. And also, I feel like Muppets Christmas Carol is unironically the best adaptation of A Christmas Carol. So there you go. But this is a frog, so I guess we should be naming him Kermit. But I don't know why. There's just something about the texture of this that just reminds me of that texture. And again, I've never felt that texture, but from what it looks like, it almost has that like felty kind of look to it. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. This is softer than felt, definitely, but it has that texture to it, and I don't know, it's just a vibes thing. If you know, you know. Anyway, I'm going to quit yapping and I'm going to go stuff this and continue working on it, but man, I am absolutely loving this yarn, which I am really happy to say. Well, we are almost done with this little cutie, but as I'm working on this, I keep thinking, I really want to make a sweater out of this yarn. The one thing I would worry about though is, does this yarn shed when you are wearing it as a garment and washing it and all of those things? Let me check actually if this yarn is machine washable. So it does say machine wash gentle, tumble dry low. So this is machine washable and machine dryable, or so it says on the packaging. But if you have any experience working with this as a garment, let me know. I mean, I will take one for the team and experiment with making a sweater out of this to see if it sheds, because I love the texture so much. And I've been really into making fluffy sweaters lately, or at least that's my next project, is going to be a fluffy sweater that I'm really excited about. But I wish that I could work with this one for that project, but this is just doesn't come in the correct colors, which we'll get to more of my thoughts on the colors in a little bit. But as you can see with this, it does shed a little bit. I don't even know if you can see on camera, but it does shed a little bit whenever you pick at it. It sheds more than I thought, actually. Once you start kind of picking at it, it does start to shed and come apart there. So that would be a worry for me when it would come to making a garment out of this. Now, it doesn't shed like as you're crocheting with it. I've only sewed up the top so far, but it didn't shed while I was sewing with it. And you guys know that I'm really picky about yarn that sheds when you're working with it. This doesn't at all. I would just worry that over time it would shed. I don't know. I'm already dealing with a dog that sheds quite a bit. I really don't need my sweaters to shed as well, but I am just curious. So if you have any experience with that, let me know. So it is time to sew this guy up, but I, for the life of me, cannot decide which eyes to use, and I need your opinions, although you cannot give them to me in real time. I'm still curious. I just don't know. They definitely give it different vibes. So first of all, we have, hold on, this glitter eye. So the thing is I really like the size of this, but I don't know that I love the glitter for this particular project. Then we have this one, which is just the plain brown, which I really like the brown. I think it gives a good vibe, but I do wish that it was a little bit bigger, but I just don't have, I think this is a 16 millimeter, and I don't have a 16 millimeter in the brown. I don't know. I think I'm going to go for these smaller brown ones. I have been actually trying to find projects to use these up in. Lily is growling. Are the squirrels bothering you today? There are so many squirrels out today. So I think that I'm going to go with this, and then I have to decide what face to give him. We can just go for the classic smile. We can go for a frown. Ooh, we could also go for like a little smirk, like a little half smile, because he does kind of have that like Muppet, like quirky cuteness to him, I feel like. So I think that might be what I go with, just like a little cute smirk. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. But I did get a huge pack of these 10 millimeter different colored eyes, and I have not found a lot of uses for them because I have been liking big eyes on my plushies lately, but I think this is going to be the perfect use for this. So we are going to do that, sew this up, and then I'll come back and tell you my final thoughts, but they're mostly good thoughts. Interrupting your regularly scheduled programming to correct a piece of misinformation that I spoke about in the beginning of this video. And that is that when I was comparing this to the Feels Like Bliss yarn, I said that that one was multiple strands, while this one was only one strand with the fluff coming off. I was incorrect, and I did not notice until I was sewing with this, and I didn't even notice until I was sewing the very last arm on, that this is actually multiple strands. I did not even notice. These are wound together in such a way that it never bothered me. It never split. I just never even noticed until the very end. But I just wanted to tell you that so I wouldn't forget to mention that, yeah, this is actually multiple strands, but it still gives that light as air feeling. So there you go, on to the reveal. And I don't think you guys are ready for just how cute this is. Okay, you guys, my little Kermit is done. And is he or is he not one of the cutest things I've ever made on this channel? I am in love with him. Now, I ended up giving him a little bit of a sweeter smile there. I was going to give him like a little smirk, but once I was finished with him, I just felt like he needed a cuter smile there. So that is what I did. I will say that embroidering on top of this type of yarn is not easy. I mean, not just the Feels Like a Dream yarn, but fluffy yarn in general is pretty hard to embroider on top of, but we got there in the end. As usual, I am going to talk about some different aspects of this yarn and say whether I give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a sideways thumb. So starting off with, is this yarn easy to work with? Now, with the caveat that this is a fluffy yarn, and with fluffy yarns, you're always going to have a hard time seeing your stitches, but as fluffy yarns go, this is a pretty easy one to work with. So I am giving it a thumbs up, but I would not recommend this yarn to a beginner. And if you already know you don't like fluffy yarns, you're probably not going to like this one. But if you already know that you enjoy a fluffy yarn, I definitely say give this one a try. Now, I didn't even realize until the very end that this yarn even could split. So it didn't split for me at all. It didn't snag. It glided nicely on the hook. Sewing was pretty easy with it as well. So across the board, I'm giving this a thumbs up. But again, I would caution you, if you're a beginner, probably don't start with this yarn. So now let's talk about the texture, which if it's not obvious that I'm giving this a thumbs up, then you have not been paying attention, because I am in love with this texture. I love the way it looks and the way it feels. I know it sounds weird to say that I like the look of a texture, but it really does give almost a needle felted look. In fact, I showed this to my husband and he was like, oh, it looks needle felted. And it really does. And so if you're looking for that type of look, this is the yarn for you for sure. Now, the one thing I would say about this yarn is probably don't use this yarn to make gifts for babies and toddlers who are going to put things in their mouth, because this yarn does come apart a bit if you pick at it. Now, for an older kid, or obviously as a display piece, not that big of a deal. It's not just going to shed if you look at it wrong like some yarns, but I would be a little bit concerned if a baby or a toddler is going to put this in their mouth. So I would just stay away from this yarn for that purpose. But other than that, Kermit is perfect, which, speaking of Kermit, I meant to mention this earlier when I was talking about the Muppets, but I know that there is a Muppet crochet pattern book and I have not tried it yet, but wouldn't it be so cute to use this type of yarn on Kermit? I do wish that they had the correct, like more Kermit-like colors, but wouldn't that be adorable? Which, speaking of colors, this color range, I have some problems with. I mean, my problem is that I just wish that there was more colors, honestly. I like a lot of the colors that they have. And I think that depending on where you get this, on the Michaels website, there's only 7 colors. And then on the Lion Brand website, there are 14 colors. And for the most part, they do go for these kind of more muted tones. But there are randomly a couple of bright ones, like a bright orange and a bright gold. I just wish that for my own purposes that this came in more shades. I would love to make something like in this shade of pink, but they don't really have that. So I don't know. For me personally, I'm giving the color range a sideways thumb, but that's mostly just because I want to see more colors. So now let's talk about the price, which I'm having a harder and harder time judging whether or not something is a fair price, because I just feel like almost everything is too expensive anymore. But I feel like for 200 yards and it's $8.99, so $9, that's a little on the higher end, but I don't know. Mostly I do this section just so I can let you guys know what the price is, and you can kind of judge for yourselves whether you think that's a fair price or not. For me, I'm going to give it a sideways thumb, but you'll have to let me know if you think that that is a good price or not. So in the end, will Lion Brand Feels Like a Dream Ami? I mean, for sure. I would definitely repurchase this yarn to make more amigurumi. I would love to experiment with making sweaters and hats and maybe even blankets out of this yarn. I really enjoy it. And I do think that it has just a really unique place in the yarn world. I've tried a lot of different types of fluffy yarn in my day, from the super, super fluffy to the just lightly, barely fluffy. And I love the way this one looks. It does, like I said, just give that needle felted look to it. So I think it's pretty unique in that way. So I definitely recommend this yarn, again, if you are okay with not really being able to see your stitches. So that does bring us to the end of today's video. I do want to remind you that I am still accepting yarn if you guys want to send it to me to make my own mystery calendar of yarns that you guys send me, and I'm going to make some videos trying it out. I'll leave all of the details of that in the description down below. But other than that, if you've made it to this part of the video, I want to know, what were you working on as you watched today's video? Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to come hang out again. You can join my Patreon where I have bonus videos, exclusive patterns. You can get access to the Discord, and thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.